longer. Thank you so much for taking a minute out. You have quite a tale to tell, so I'm looking forward to getting into it. So thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having
You
us.
bet. So before we get into the whirlwind of promoting the book and the stories and all of that, I want to know this. 5 years ago, this pandemic was raging and so many things were changing on the planet for all of us. So ultimately, how did you survive the pandemic of 2020 and how has that reverberated into you writing this book, promoting it, and getting the story out?
Mm.
Yeah, I think James can attest to this. I didn't. I didn't survive it.
Neither one of us did. We are the ghosts of our former
There you
selves.
Yeah,
go.
like I
Yeah.
would say that my aviation career ended majorly because of COVID.
Yeah.
Like sadly, it got to a point where New York was hit really, really hard, right? And first, and so obviously all my clients at the time were still flying because they were like, oh, it doesn't apply to me, naturally.
Yeah.
Um, but in the end, eventually what happened was they would have 5 day trips that because nobody really wanted to stay in hotels or on the road and be extra exposed would go to like 1 day trips, right? So, but then when you're freelance, and the city's helping you financially or things like this, because of COVID and nobody was working,
Right.
right? And because we were, what do they call us? Essential employees, right? The government was very nice in helping take care of us. So I had a bunch of billionaire clients that all decided that they would just book me like a half a day or a day, but then that would push me off government assistance. And then I would still having to pay for all their catering, all the crazy expenses on my credit cards. And maybe I would be reimbursed, maybe I wouldn't. And then so all these extra crazy expenses started adding up and the work wasn't there anymore, right? So maybe I would have been able to put 5 grand on my credit card, personal credit card for sashimi in the air, for my billionaire clients and the regular flying. But during the pandemic, I just didn't have that cash flow.
Right.
So it's very interesting how it became like, wait a second, am I subsidizing my billionaire clients to fly around the world? Wait, is that really what's happening? And so
And that was
then
an
I was like,
aha moment, I think, for Danielle. Yeah.
yeah. So not to keep monologuing on about it, but that's really kind of how we got here was that like I just literally couldn't afford to keep subsidizing them.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
But that has to give you a whole different perspective on billionaires. Like most of us can't even conceptualize what it is to live in that reality. But when I
Right.
hear stories of the things that they need and all of these amenities, and then you see tribes in Africa that have never even seen other human beings, and you take that chasm and you look at how life works, it has to just blow your mind to be that close to those epicenters.
Truly, truly. And seeing that like they don't give a flying frisbee about you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I make sure their kids are safe. If the plane goes down and a blaze of blaming of flaming glory, it's me that pulls everybody out. But they don't really care, right? Like just make sure you have the food right. Just make
Yeah.
sure you have the drinks
Uh-huh.
right. Meanwhile, I'm like, but I have to live too. And that didn't
Yeah.
compute and it didn't matter, and also they didn't care. That was the
Right.
thing that got me the most, like they didn't care. One great example I'll use of this is this family is all in the book, and like everyone shall remain nameless because we value our freedom and being out of prison
Yeah. Right.
and not violating NDAs. So they were all over the book, but one of the things that really was a perception shift for me was that this woman they had working for them for like 30 plus years. Okay. She'd raised all of their children who are now adults and getting married and in hedge funds themselves and doing their own thing. And this woman had developed, I think she was like stage 3 cancer or something. And they were like, well, I know that you're going through treatment, but we really need to get down to the house in Miami. It's like very essential for us. So if we could just fly you down on the jet with us, you can bring your caretaker, who's your daughter, and then we'll fly you back, no problem. Well, they didn't fly them back on the jet; they flew them back commercial. So now we have this extremely immunocompromised woman who's essential to their life,
Right.
but they don't give a flying frisbee. I want to cuss so badly when I keep saying that, but
Yeah,
you
right.
know,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. You could interchange the words. They don't give a flying fudge. We all feel the same when we hear stories like that. It hits so hard.
Yeah.
It's like, wait a second, I really could be your family and you don't
Don't
care.
care. And that
Wild.
dehumanization process is something that came
Wild.
up again and again while we were writing this book. I mean, Danielle, like I basically held up a mirror to Danielle is how I got involved. She used to call me and ask, like we would talk about how her trips were going, and I was working in fashion at the time, so I was also dealing with a different kind of rich monster. But Danielle had this. I had not developed a Stockholm syndrome where I thought I was like, part of them. I freelanced a lot. So like I understood that my place was sort of on the outskirts of this fashion, uh society, the social class structure. But Danielle, these people had become so close to her. She'd been flying them for so long, and she knew so many things about them. They were so verbally one way to her, and then
Mm.
the rest of the way that they were treating her, it was so obvious that it's not that it wasn't a personal thing. They don't care about anything or anyone unless it unless it is themselves. And even then, it's only I don't even know how to describe it. It was almost like they cared in advancing themselves, but they were also willing to like sacrifice parts of themselves, like their humanity or their reputation or something to get like in a personal sense, not on like a broader, wider scale where people would find out, but like in a moment-to-moment human interaction, they did not care. Like Danielle said, they don't give a flying fill in the blank about anything that did not, advance their singular desire in that moment. And that was a recurring theme that is throughout the book. You see these people reacting, the wealthiest, most successful people that are supposedly made it, the pinnacle of Western society. Of you can't get more successful than this, and they were some of the most miserable people on earth because they're constantly serving that part of their ego that can never be satisfied. And I think that goes very deep into like there's obviously a deeper theme about that commentary on human existence and what it's like to live in a first world with unlimited access to funds if you can get there. But the concept of enough doesn't really seem to exist in that world.
And what a timely time to have this book come out with the way our country's being run. And we've seen the inauguration with the billionaires. No matter where you're at on the political
Yep.
spectrum, there are people that have money and there's that whole pie. I remember when I was in college, they showed like, like 98% of what is owned in this country comes from like the top 2%. And we feel it
Sure.
all the time from these people. Like there is a complete irreverence for all of us that wake up every day with an alarm clock and have this agenda of making our lives better and going out and just living our lives. But they're in a completely different reality. And I feel it. They don't, none of these people care. They just
There.
don't.
Right.
It's not in the agenda.
It has something to do,
Exactly.
not to keep going, Danielle, sorry, but there was something I was reading about how most of us, people of Earth, are constrained by a financial sort of cage, as big or small as it is, right? But a lot of our decisions, most of our decisions are based around our access to capital, right? Where you're going on vacation, what you're doing in your time off. When you don't have that financial limitation boxing you in, you start to free fall and you lose all sense of up from down, right from wrong. The rules that govern society no longer apply to you at all. And that is something that theoretically we all understand, but seeing it in practice,
Yeah.
a billionaire's company requesting Danielle to put the majority of the catering on her private credit card, for example, when a pilot has a company credit card, he gets to pay, the company pays for that
Yeah.
and they reimburse him. Why is Danielle the lowest person on the totem, above the people that load your bags onto the plane? What do they call Danielle? The line guys.
Yeah.
um Danielle is footing all of the
Crazy.
financial burden for these people for no apparent reason. And they wouldn't haggle with her over turning in well, this was a handwritten receipt. We can't accept a handwritten receipt.
From like a
Danielle,
taco truck. Like,
That's
taco truck.
crazy.
They demanded these tacos. They don't do printed receipts, and they're like, oh well, it's not something that we can't pay you back for that. Nickel and diming her,
That's
and these
crazy.
people,
yeah.
it was truly a through the looking glass situation watching it happen. And full circle to bring this back, Danielle really didn't see it because she'd been working there so long. It just seemed relatively normal.
Well,
Um,
that's just how it is. I kept saying, well, but
just
that's
how
just
it is.
how it is, you
Yep.
know? And then as we got like deeper and deeper into it, I was like, wait a second, Berkshire Hathaway, who owns NetJets, hasn't given their flight attendants a raise in 10 years. What? That's criminal.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't do that to predominantly male pilots, you
Right.
No.
know?
Uh-huh.
Or the craziest thing to me was, which is also in the book about which there's a lot not in the book that we couldn't say,
Sure.
but which we love to talk about in person, you
Uh-huh.
know.
Uh-huh. Uh,
But one of the things that was crazy to us was that, you know, they not jets and accounts like this will have what they call key account holders, and those are people who fly all the time,
Right.
and they get perks for flying all the time naturally, but what nobody tells you is that they come out of the cruise kind of lifestyle, right? So like, pardon my yes, as I'm in the city you can hear the
oh, yeah,
sirens
it's
coming
great. I
by,
love
but
the
let me,
ambient.
okay,
No.
great,
Yeah.
okay, good.
Wait till you hear
So
the
like,
church
you know,
bells. They are
Yeah.
deafening.
oh
Yes.
yeah, right. Those won't come till 11, thankfully. But so what we saw was that like they would make deals with the billionaires because they flew so much. So like instead of me getting like, let's say the daily rate was 650 domestic, 850 international, we would only get 650 because he's such a good client. And I'm like, but what?
You're like, but
Like,
I'm subsidizing
but
now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have,
Yeah.
why do I
But
have to take
then,
the break? And they're like, well, that's what you agreed to.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I didn't understand because that's insane.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's almost
But
like
yeah,
midnight legislation. So let me ask you this.
exactly.
Where did all this begin for you? Where were you born and raised? How did you get to this point in life?
Okay, so similarly to you, James and I are Navy babies. And
Whoop.
so, but unlike you, we were dragged all over the place.
Okay.
You know, like every 2 years somewhere else. You know, I think the first schools we went to were Hawaii and California. We lived near Amish country, kind of in Pennsylvania. Then we moved to the Middle East, where there was like, you know, we went to the International Baccalaureate School in Bahrain, which has all the Middle Eastern royalty and the Saudi royalty and stuff. So we've had like an incredible experience, you know? And it's not to say like we're big fans of money, okay, and wealth, and we love privilege. We just wish more people had it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
not to say that we're against it, it's
Sure.
that we think there's enough for everyone.
Yeah. 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 I get
Yeah.
it. And there's a
Yeah.
morality that goes into it too.
Yeah.
There's just a code of being a human being and being good to each other. And I think you realize that the older you get. It's like I'm just astounded at just the gall. But I'm curious. When you write a
Yeah.
book,
Hmm.
there's a lot of things that you have to unearth that can be painful. And there's a lot of miraculously wonderful things that you can unearth. In the process of writing this book, how much did you two grow in your relationship as siblings, and how much did you grow in general writing this book and making it happen?
Well, James and I have always been like besties. We are like 2 years, 2 weeks, and like a half a day apart or something. You know, we've always fancied ourselves twins.
Well, I
But this
told people
kind
we
of,
were until we were like 6, and I realized you had to be born at the same time to be twins,
Right.
which nobody told me that. Come on.
Right.
so we've
Um,
been close a long time, you
yeah,
know. But enabled us to like really look at some patterns of behavior, some
Yeah.
patterns of like people pleasing, and maybe not like speaking up for ourselves and
right.
knowing our worth and stuff, you know? I think to be a really good intuitive kind of server, which is what so many of us do in life, like we're serving other people, you know, with what we
Some
do.
capacity. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be like, you have to kind of swallow part of yourself for a while, you know? So this is, I think, I mean, James might disagree, but I think one of our biggest things that we've grown through is like really just kind of knowing that we got something to say and it's worth it and it means something,
Yeah.
right?
And even
And
if
that
it
we,
may trample on some people or step on some toes, that it's not, it doesn't mean that it doesn't deserve to be heard. Can
Yeah.
I not interject, Danielle? Watching
yep,
Danielle grow through this, like Danielle was extremely good at her job, because she was extremely good at recognizing and taking care of other people's needs ahead of hers a lot of the time. And through the process of writing this book, so Danielle is now a writer in her own right, but when we came to me with this, I've written for magazines, I've written, for other publications and stuff. And I'd sort of taken a bit of a hiatus to do other things that paid more money. But when we decided to do this, um, Danielle was really kind of a neophyte when it came to putting pen to paper. And I think asking me for help was kind of a big step for Danielle. She does not do that a lot. She does not like to rely on other people. She's very self-reliant, very capable. But this was something that she needed help with. And that was a big step. Seeing Danielle do that, admitting that there was being able to say I want to do this and I would like to work with you to do this because I can't do it on my own. Acknowledging that was huge for me to see you do that. I mean, my whole life you've been like my self-reliant, independent big sister. She never needed anything from anybody. So that was a big step forward in terms of just admitting that she's not superhuman, sorry to say. Oh, even though you are to me forever, you will be. And then also, Danielle now we're working on other projects. We're sharing treatments for different concepts. Danielle will send me fully formed ideas that are succinct, that are thoughtful, that are insightful. And she always could speak that way, right? She always dropped these pearls of wisdom on me when we were talking. But seeing the way that, are from the first drafts of this book to what I receive now when we have conversations and then when she writes something up, Danielle is now a true legitified in the few years we've been doing this, she has become a writer in her own right. And that is also spectacular for me because I've been doing it for so long, watching her grow. Not to sound condescending or whatever, but she is my little mentee. She's grown up. And now it's really spectacular to see what she's capable of.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We've kind of explored the side of the darker side of how this world works with wealth. But the one thing about all of us that toil and labor every day is there's these people that we run into that we look forward to that may not be the biggest name on the block, but that just gives you that special feeling. Who was that for
Yeah.
you? Who did you run into where you were like,
Ooh.
I can't wait to see him?
Okay, so I used to fly this couple, and I love the story because it's so multifaceted. Okay, so first of all, the couple met a little bit later in life. They were late 30s. I think she was like 39. They met through mutual friends. They both kind of thought, well, maybe I'm just not going to get married, blah, blah, blah. They met, fell in love. They have a pair of twins. They high five on takeoff from across the aisle every time. And this woman, now I think about her so fondly. I feel like they owned like a couple minor league baseball teams or something. And he would tip 500 bucks every time, cold hard cash right in the palm, which who doesn't love that, you know?
Yeah.
And his wife used to tell me, I used to do their kids' homework and stuff with them on the plane, and we'd hang out. And she'd always be like, I'm sober now. But she was like, when I wasn't sober, I would be drinking wine and all the moms would love me and hang out and blah, blah, blah. But she was like, the second I switched to smoking weed and smoking cannabis, all the moms decided that she was no longer cut to be like, or fit to be tied, right? She needed to be like, kept away from them because she was
Yeah.
an addict and had an issue. Anyway, they were my favorite couple because she just spit it like it was so real, right? How many layers of
Yeah.
that? Like being postpartum, struggling with addiction, and then coming out of it, not being like a wino anymore, but then still being labeled an addict by her friends that are drinking copious. It was just wild. So
Yeah.
she's one of my favorites. Yeah.
I got to ask you this because of the one dude that survived that crash.
Oh, how?
What kind of angel was hanging on his shoulder?
Dude, I have no idea. It
That
just
gives me
shows you, like,
goosebumps thinking about it. Like, are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
right?
Oh my.
And I'm like, I want to interview this guy too. I'm
Yeah,
like, please tell us how you did this
yeah,
because I'm so curious, and it just really goes to show you how resilient the human body is.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when they were telling us that when we were training and stuff, they're like, if you ever crash in like the jungle or a deserted island, like you will have to skin and eat lizards. So, this is stuff they prep you for, but then you think, oh, well, obviously nobody's going to survive. How would you survive that? And then
When
nope, turns out no problem. Barely scathed, you would survive it.
yeah,
If you do. I mean,
uh-huh.
I don't know. I'm like, did he fly through the air? Did he have a tiny parachute? Like a couple angels? Unclear.
If Tom Hanks can become best friends with the volleyball and a FedEx box, it can happen, right? I mean,
It
come
can
on.
happen. Anything can happen.
Anything can
And that
happen.
famous documentary.
Yeah,
about Tom Hanks. Yeah, and the volleyball. I love that.
yeah,
I think it won like a
absolutely.
BAFTA.
It's the beauty of modern media. So at the end of the day, when you look at who you are, both of you respectively, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, and now emerging with this book, everyone's going to have a perception of you. But you are the pilot. You run your show. What is your perception of who you think you are, each respectively?
Ooh,
Oh, what a great question. And yikes.
yeah. Do you want
Yikes,
a minute? Should
Joe.
I go first?
Right? Okay, you go
I'll be the
first.
down, you be the up. No, I'm totally kidding.
Like an
I,
airplane, you know?
yeah, exactly. She'll steady the plane after I take us for a nosedive. No, I think you know, I don't know. I see myself as still evolving, I guess. This is more aligned with who I wanted to be. I think when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a writer. Danielle always wanted to be in fashion. So we joked that I stole her dream and then she stole my dream and we coattailed it on each other. Like I used to take her to all the fashion shows and now I'm helped her write her book. So this co-pilot situation has been kind of a running theme for our lives. But as far as how I perceive myself, I try not to. I studied sociology so in school. So I understand that we are mostly a collection of ever-shifting experiences. And I try not to tie myself to one identity or another, but I don't I think it would be nice to embrace the authorship. I felt like a writer for a long time. I really enjoy the idea that I could take it one step further down this path and have the world perceive me as a legitimate, force to be reckoned with. Danielle and I have big ambitions um, coming up with this. I think, uh, our paths have led us to exactly where we're supposed to be right now. All the hardships, the jobs that we hated, the jobs that we loved, the people that we met, it all was like bricks on the road, right? So I don't know. That's
Yeah.
a really good question.
Yeah, what a
Danielle, have you had
loaded
long enough to think
question,
about it
Joe.
now? Do you want to talk a little bit longer, and then you can go?
I tried to disassociate while you were doing that so I could think, but your answer was so good. Yeah,
That's a
you know
really
what?
insightful
Honest,
question. Yeah.
it was,
Sorry.
what a great question, Joe.
Hmm.
Thank you.
Um, I just think I'm really happy with who I am. I think it's taken me a long time. Kennedy from Kennedy Nation, who was the MTV VJ, we just saw her at a chat, like a fireside kind of chat, an evening with, if you will. And she said something about how she was perceived as like a woman on MTV, that she was loud and she was intense and she was all these things. And she was like too much or whatever. And I can so identify with that. And to that, I would say perfect.
Yeah.
I guess I've arrived just in time for that because I feel like to be anything less, what a waste, you know?
Huh?
So,
Danielle's
So
answer was so much better. I'd like to go back and do mine again, please.
I want an edit. You're rewriting the book. So let me ask you this. Is obviously you have an adventurous spirit. This book is going to like kindle levels of adventure in people. Getting in an airplane and traveling at its very root level is launching thousands of dreams and adventure. So let me ask you this
no.
fantastical final question here. When we get off this call, you get to walk up the tarmac, you get to go to an airplane and you can get in and you can go anywhere in the history of time and see one thing with your own eyes. You can go to one
Ooh.
event, one period of time. You could even go to outer space if you need to. Where are you going to travel to?
Okay, I'm going back to when Cleopatra was ruling because I want to see like what was really going on. She was like the most well-read of all the Egyptian queens. She spoke like three languages. She unified all of her people. They absolutely loved her. So I would just love to be her mentee. Like
Yeah,
show me how it's done, sister, you know?
that's it.
Yeah.
The beginnings.
Yeah.
I'm going primordial soup. I want to see those first things come out of the water onto land and see what we actually evolved from. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like a
Absolutely.
prehistoric monster sometimes. So I want to see if I have like direct relatives back there. If I
Yep,
can see my reflection somewhere. Maybe
that's
they've got a
awesome.
terrible half beard as well. We'll see.
So, are you on a whirlwind now of promoting the book and getting really what's this been like?
It's been so exciting. We just had our
Yeah.
book launch on
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
You're our first podcast that we've done since the book launch. So thank you
Awesome.
for having us on. We're really
Very
Yeah,
excited.
excited. Thank
totally.
you.
It was a super success. We have some things lined up, coming up, but honestly, who knows how it's going to play out? Hopefully, maybe we have something coming out in the New York Post, so stay tuned.
Huh?
If the God desire and they smile favorably upon us.
And
So
Oprah's out there. The sky's the limit. There's
the
so
It
sky
many.
is
is
the
out
limit.
there.
It's
Yeah,
manifest destiny. We just need to put this out there, and then it's going to
exactly.
start. It's going to
Actually,
That's
start.
Oprah's right
right.
here. Oprah, could I have you for a second?
Yeah,
You want to
come
join
on
us?
in. All right.
Come on in. It's so funny you should
And
mention
then
her. She's right here.
How's the weather in Chicago? Come on, let's do it.
Yeah, come on.
exactly.
Bring in the
And then
wind.
you'll have to come and visit in New York when we have a big event or
Yeah.
something fun.
Absolutely, yeah. And I have a jazz radio show, so I've never been to the Vanguard. I haven't been to Village Gate. I haven't been to Smalls. I haven't been to Small. I mean, I just
Oh
I
yeah.
interviewed a guy at one point. He was a big dude. I can't remember his name, but he was a big bass player, and he said the first time that he went to a club in New York and went, because you got to go down to the bows, and he said he came up and he was in such shock that it happened that he literally just his body stopped and he just fainted and fell on the ground.
Oh
Wow.
my God.
And I feel like
Wow.
that's going to happen to me when I finally get in there and breathe Birdland in. I'm going to be like, oh my God, what is going on?
Yeah,
It's going to be the
exactly.
oxygen mask of jazz history is going to knock me loose. I can't wait.
Exactly, exactly. And
So
Joe, before I forget to tell you, there is a little spot in Harlem that's at somebody's house and they do like specialty jazz nights. And you can Google it online, but like it's all over Instagram. It's like the place for Harlem jazz musicians to play like offbeat. I feel like you would love that.
there used to be cauldrons of those places that musicians would go to, and all of the families would cook soups and all this stuff. So they would jam. Like I'm talking Miles, I'm talking Monk, I'm talking the soup, the
Oh,
real ones.
wow.
And they would just
Yeah.
kind of float in and they would eat a bowl of soup. They would knock it out on the tenor and they would hit the subway and smoke their cigarettes. And it's
So
like,
fantastic.
yeah, it's like, I
Yeah.
mean, that's the beauty of New York to me. It's just this etching of a romanticism. It's the ultimate painting. So, yeah, I've been there. I remember going and seeing, I went on a tour with my cousin who is the hippest person in the world. She was in Long Island and she was like ducking on the top of this like London double decker. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, we're in the most populated city on the planet. What are you ducking from? Like no one's, but it was just that vibe. But it was the
Yeah.
coolest thing to go on that
Oh,
tour. So
nice.
I need a
Yeah, I've
rendezvous
been.
badly. But
Exactly.
this has been wonderful. So if anyone wants to reach out, get the book, any of the good business in your world, where do they go?
Okay, great. So the book is sold everywhere books are sold. It's distribution by Simon and Schuster. So we're very happy about that. Of course, Amazon. You can go to our link, the-mhc.com, and then you can find us everywhere at Mile High Club Stories.
I love this story. Just the whole thing's wonderful. And it's like if you
Thank
would have
you.
if you would have opened up a piece of paper before you wrote this book that had some etching from your early life that said this was going to happen, there would be no way you would believe it, right?
Um,
No, I would have thought James.
well, Danielle is also the queen of coming up with impossible jobs that nobody believes actually exist or that she can do. Before she started flying, she told everyone she wanted to travel the world and work part-time with full-time pay. And everybody was like, that's not a thing. And
Yeah,
Danielle was like, really? Watch me. I'm gonna go get it real quick.
you're the one.
But of course, the part-time work turned into 25 days a month, but that doesn't matter because it
Right.
was in the beginning, it was the
Dream met.
dream.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it evolved. Absolutely.
exactly.
What a joy. Thank you so much. Thank you for
Thank you
opening
so
up.
much,
Thank you
Joe.
for this. And really, truly, best of luck on this. And when
Thank
I hit
you.
New York, I'll let you know for sure.
Please do. Joe, this was awesome. Thanks for
Yes.
having
Thank
us.
Thank
you.
you so much.
Cheers.
Take
Yeah,
care.
bye.
Looking to get new clients to your business through cold calling or email marketing? At Agency Y, they envision a world in which small and big companies have equal chances to win new customers in the market. Their purpose is to bring parity and reduce the gap between large and small firms with the help of their cold calling and cold email marketing services. Use the code Joe Dimino 10 at www.agencyyyy.org/coldcallingjoe.php or www.agencyyyy.org/emailmarketingjoe.php to get 10% off your first order. This is Joe Dimino of Neon Jazz and Famous Interviews, and I stand behind Agency Y to meet your business dreams.